welcome to the Improv Summit. As always, I'm your host, Spencer. With me today, I have a very special guest. Now, I always say I have a special guest, so in order to say that I mean I have a special guest every week, I have taken everyone's first name and taken the first letter and turned it into an adjective, a very simple improv game. Like I could be Super Spencer or Slippery Spencer or Sneaky Spencer, but today I have a very special guest with me, and that guest is Brilliant BJ. How's it going?
Oh, what's going on, Spencer? It's Brilliant BJ, and I'm so glad to be here at the Improv Summit.
Yeah, great. And I was going to say, sometimes I take my time to introduce the guest because I'm actually improvising the adjective as I talk. So I'm not like pre-planning it.
Good.
And so I'm like, what are words that start with letters? That's hard. Also an adjective. Anyway, enough about me and my woes. Let's talk about you and your non-woes. Anyways.
Yeah.
What is your relationship to improv, or what is your improv experience?
Improv to me is the world. It is the reason why I exist. And as an actor, I always tell people that improv is my highway. I'm always on the highway, whether I'm improvising short form, long form, if I'm doing sketch, if I'm, using it for, creative writing. And then I get off of the highway to do actor stuff, such as, film, TV, commercials, theater, whatever that is. I'm an IO West and Second City grad, also a UCB Los Angeles grad, and I currently teach at the Second City in Hollywood. I'm the comedy coach for the Air Force's Wounded Warrior program, and I'm a graduate of the improv trick, Mr. Bill Cott, Chott, who's my improv mentor. He really brought me into the improv space when I came back from touring in the early 2000s in St. Louis, my hometown, which is the birthplace of modern day improv as we know it, where the Compass Players started so long ago in Gaslight Square.
I've never been to St. Louis.
You should come sometime.
I guess that's what I gleaned from that whole conversation. No, Bill Cott's great. Anyway, yeah, great, awesome. What do you love about improv? What keeps you like doing improv? Because you haven't just taken one class. You've taken a lot, and you teach and you coach, and you want to spread the joy of improv to everyone. So what do you love about improv and keeps you like wanting to spread the joy?
Spencer, I think improv to me is more than just a performance tool. It really is a lifestyle, and it really is something that can help everyone, not just actors, not just comedians, not just people who are looking to get a little bit more out there in the world, but for everybody, both performance reasons and non-performance reasons. As you and I have discussed many times, applied improvisation is so important. And I think when I got sick, I'm a two-time cancer survivor. A couple of years ago, I was in a really bad place. And I look back at what I had been teaching and professing for so long, what we both teach and profess for so long, which is to say yes and to agree, right? To just step forward. And I really had to look back at what that meant. And then suddenly improv meant something a little bit deeper to me as a way to reconnect and then to use it as some sort of life skill. So I think it means the ability to be able to be bigger than we already are. And that's for everybody, not just for comedians.
That's great. So now I want to play a little quick pick your question game. It's a new game. Literally, this is the first time I've done it, so we'll see if it works.
All right, my hand's on the buzzer.
Great. I need you to select number 1, 2, or 3.
2, please.
2. Okay, great. So this is your question that I'm going to ask. It's arbitrary, these numbers. It's like, whose line? The points don't matter. The questions don't matter, but they do matter. The numbers don't matter.
Yeah.
Has there been any scene that you, as a coach or as a teacher or as an improviser, or even as an audience member, saw or performed in that gave you like an aha moment or something that made you just go, because I have a hard time. So to preface it, I have a hard time remembering like anything in improv after it's happened. Like I just, and sometimes even like after I do a scene and it's brought back, like when I did Harold's at I.O., people are like, oh, I'm doing this thing. And I'm like, wait, what was my character? I don't remember.
Right.
Because like, I just have a hard time with it. But there are moments where I'm literally like, oh, I will never forget this scene or this scene because it helped me learn something or guide me through my improv journey. But are there any scenes that you remember in any form of improv, whether watching or performing or coaching, that you were like, oh, this is going to stick with me for whatever reason, and why?
You know, I guess if I really sat here and thought about some when I was a performer, not when I was, but when I was going through classes, there was probably quite a bit. And I would frankly be embarrassed to probably share some of those. But what first came to my mind when you asked the question, and I always share this story. At IO West, Craig Kikowski at this point was coaching level 4 up in the loft. And I repeated level 4 just because I felt like it was so much. Okay. So at this point, I'm not in the scene, but I'm watching as a student. So this is example number 1, and I've got 2 for you. And Shoney, and I forgot Shoney's last name. He was getting into improv. He hadn't done anything beforehand. He's in the middle of his training now. But this is a moment of discovery, and it was so beautiful, Spencer. It was so amazing. So the scene starts with a couple of guys standing in an elevator landing, and one of the guys hits the button and says, going up to the next level, whatever, right? Just an office place. Well, they all stepped on the elevator, turned around and faced out towards the audience like they were standing in an elevator in like a square, like a comedy cube. And all 3 of the guys got off, and Spence and Shoney stood there and like was going like this. It's kind of lost in the moment. And Craig yelled scene, and Shoney was still kind of like, and he was like, what's going on? Like, what happened? You kind of froze up there. And he goes, I never thought about being in an elevator going to another level. So that was a moment where he had never experienced being able to bend the space, because when you're not used to that, unless you're used to like, oh, and we step forward and now we're somewhere else, or we can go upstairs, downstairs. I can look down and yell at somebody. Until you've done it, you've not been there. And I'll answer the second one with this. I was teaching at a performing arts high school in Southern California, and some of my students came up to Los Angeles to see me perform at the Second City. And afterwards, the backside of IO West was open in the Del Close Theater, and they were doing some sort of a jam. It was just an open jam. And I always tell my students, and they were underage, obviously, because they were high school students at this point, but they were allowed to go into the DCT. I told the students, hey, if you guys want to come, and their parents were there and whatever, you should come, and it's a jam. Like, but I don't know, it's not curated by me, that you're doing this on your own, because you never know what's going to happen in a scene, and you get a little uncomfortable. Well, I'll be damned if I didn't get chosen to go up in one of my students. And it was a very sexual scene, which, like, I wanted to show that the ability to be able to flip it in a positive, because she and I, like, this would be awkward, obviously, as an instructor, but this was a good teachable moment to be able to flip it around. And I won't go into the details, but there was a millisecond of like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired from my job because of this disgusting scene. And I guess I should have also made the team aware that, like, hey guys, just, these are some of my high school students. They're here, let's be, you know what I mean? Like, be a little bit head, but it was a very rated R scene. So, but I was able to flip it, into a positive, but I will always
Sure.
think of that.
That's great. I love that. On a side note, do you have any plugs or pitches that you want to share with the world who's watching this show?
Oh man. Well, I just want to share how great Mission Warriors is. So I'm an Air Force retiree, now an Air Force veteran, which is so weird to say. But I helped co-found Mission Warriors, which is a healing arts nonprofit that works with all branches of the military and veterans to bring healing arts as a preventative application, to be able to come in and use it as a resiliency tool ahead of time. So you can check out missionwarriors.org. We're currently working with the Air Force Association for the Department of Defense Warrior Games. We'll be down there working with some of the wounded warriors. And we have a Mission Arts deal that's out right now, a sponsorship that is open to any Air Force active duty, Guard, Reserve, or veteran to be able to take part of any sort of healing art that we offer, such as improv or storytelling or journaling or woodworking or painting. And we'll send you a kit. And then we do monthly workshops online for right now, but we're looking back to going in person. Missionwarriors.org.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's super awesome. I thought of something while you were pitching, and I've not done this before on the show yet, but I'm going to have you do it. I'm going to put you through the ringer on because you said you've done iOS, RIP, Second City, and UCB. So one thing that a lot of people want to know is like, why are there so many improv schools and what's the difference? So even though IO is no longer around and it's not really an option, I still want to throw this in here. I'm going to name one of these schools that you've been to, and I want you to tell me in 3 words or less what their idea or their philosophy is. 3 words or less. It can be word, it can be 2 words, or it can be 3 words.
That's fine, Spencer. I should note that I did take classes over at Groundlings, but I've yet to complete there, and I don't know if I ever will, to be honest.
Great, but I will. So I won't ask you that one because you haven't completed the program. All the ones that you've done, just because advanced levels can always change how things are kind of played out. But in 3 words or less, what would be your thoughts on the philosophy of IO West or IO Chicago, IO in general?
Relationship, the Herald. That's 3 words.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would have said too. How about for Second City?
Re-improvisation, writing, history.
Yeah, okay, great. And then how about UCB? There's 1 word that I generally use for this one.
I have a lot of things to say, but just trying to condense it, I would say math, funny, focused.
Yeah, great. I usually just use the word game.
Oh, right. Okay. So that was when I say math, Spencer, that's what I meant. When I say math, that was it.
I know exactly what you mean because I had this when I took 201 at UCB. I had taken 201. I had already gone through, I think, most of the IO program, and I was like halfway through Second City at this point. And I took 201, and I literally, about halfway through the class, I was like, maybe I don't understand improv. I was like, maybe I literally can't do it. And then I realized that everyone felt that way because 201 is so specifically driven to the math side, the literal left side of your brain, to figure out, like, to find the funny, to find the game, to use the proverbial math of comedy, the comedy math, to create improv. And so going off of that, it was a lot less creative and more structured as far as how it was taught, which my brain would have loved that when I first started improv, but once I got over the hump of the creative versus structure side, my brain was like, don't go back to what you already got out of. But then, once you get to the higher levels, it goes back to that creativity because you've jumped into that foundation. So I think math is a great example, a great way to describe UCB.
And I always say pattern plus game equals justification, and that in their style is exactly that math. It's their style. Like, if this is true, what else is true, right?
Yeah.
But that's the way they see it. I don't think there's any wrong in that for anyone. And I know later on we'll probably talk about improv places, but it really depends what you want to get out of improv and where you see yourself going to decide maybe where to start, and what experience you already have. It's not one size fits all. I think people are always going to study at all the different places if they truly love improv and improvisational theater and re-improvisation, and they enjoy sketch. I think then you will study at every place. So then you'll take what works for you, right? Versus being scared and going to a place, that only says do it this way and this is it only.
Yeah. Which actually leads me into the big question here on the Improv Summit. The last question I have for you, BJ. which
Okay.
is it's the reason why the Improv Summit exists. Prior to pandemic, and even now with improv literally being accessible from anywhere in the world, um, people would say, "Oh, Spencer, you do so much improv. Where should I take improv?" And it became a hard question for me to answer because I
Yeah.
realized it wasn't like just a plus b equals c. It was there's a plus b equals c, but also sometimes y. Like,
Yep.
which you get the idea. I before you except
Yep.
after c, but sometimes y. That was kind of how the situation was. But if someone came up to you and asked you that question and said, "Where should I take improv?" What would be one piece of advice or one tidbit that you'd give to someone to help guide them on their improv journey?
I would ask them, where do they see themselves? Are you an actor? Did you already take some sort of like collegiate improv for like a theatrical sense, in school? Are you a director? Because I think directors, producers, and writers should absolutely take some improv, not just for their creative juices to kind of to be out, but I think really to open them up and to kind of get the language of an actor. It could help them as far as their writing is concerned, developing characters and things like that. Um, if someone says, I'm an actor, I moved to Los Angeles, I want to get into acting, or anywhere really, and obviously we both live in Los Angeles, but anywhere really, I would look around for the different types of improv places that are there for them. And if they see themselves going into film and TV and they want to get into the room as far as with comedic auditions, or they're doing, a lot of character type stuff,
Mm-hmm.
uh, there is something to be said for studying at a place where, you have a name on your resume. And let me be clear here. I'm not saying go in and take a level at a place, right? I'm saying completing a full program and then seeing if you want to go on advanced beyond that. Because there's a lot of people out there who have studied at a place and have just 101 or level one on their resume, and they really don't grasp the concept of, improvisation and what it can do for them. So it's a really tough question. But, if someone's like, hey, I just want to get my feet wet, I'm a little scared about improv, I always say, talk to Bill Cott at the Improv Trick. Bill is the best bang for someone's buck because you can repeat his classes as many times as you want for life. And the guy is a gem in the improv world. I mean, heart of gold and, whatnot. So maybe get your bearings there, go through his character stuff, do workshops with him. And then once you're like, okay, I'm not nervous. Okay, great. Take classes over at the Second City, whether you do it online or in person, or Chicago, Toronto, Los Angeles. Go over to UCB, rest in peace, or, whatever happens.
Half,
and I know,
yeah, half and half.
I know we got Franklin still open down the street here, but don't know what's going to happen with that. But we're online, so there are a lot of options. And if you're in a smaller market and you're looking to do improv, like my hometown of St. Louis, they have the Improv Shop there. The place is awesome, and the instructors are great. So there's a lot of ways to get connected, and there may be other stuff. Some people are like, I don't have the money to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So look at internships. I interned all the way through IO and Second City, which not only helped me to learn the theater, but I met the people and I got to sit and have conversations about, the theater and improv. And it really, that's what really grew into who I am when I moved out here.
Yeah, that's great. I did the whole Second City program through work study, including musical review and stand-up classes. I did like a lot. And then I still have 200 unused intern hours because I was going to repeat the program once I graduated. So
what are you going to do with that, Spencer?
Charna, if you're watching this, I would love a sponsor for those 220 hours of credit, 228 to be specific. But I've learned from my mistake to just not rack up hours. I've learned to use them or I lose them. Anyway, that being, and I also did work study through UCB as well. So anyways, BJ, thanks so much for joining me here on the Improv Summit. I did tell you that was the last question I had for you, but as the folks at home know, I'm always a liar, and that's never the last question I have.
Bring your next question, Spencer. Bring it.
So this one may be the most challenging of them all, if that one wasn't hard enough. The question I have for you is, we've been talking a lot about improv, semicolon, would you like to do some improv, question mark?
Yes, and.
Yes, and let's do it. All right. What if we did a suggestion that is so vague that we really have to kind of use our improv brains to come up with a scene? So I'm going to
Sure.
throw a suggestion in the chat of a very not specific word, and we're going to do a scene based on that word. So I'm going to pop
Do we
it
explore
in
it,
chat.
or do you want me to cast it out? Can we just explore it from the get-go?
Yeah, I think we'll explore it. Let's see what happens when we get it. Let's see. Let me put it into the chat.
Oh God.
Yeah.
The word that Spencer says is that.
That. T-H-A-T, that. So the one thing I will ask is, let's choose who's going to initiate the scene just for our purposes.
I'll initiate.
Great.
Come on in here, son. Come on. Come on in. Button that up a little bit. Button that up.
It's a little tight.
Yeah, I know. Hey, there's a reason why my hands are on your shoulders. I'm looking at you in your eyes, and I'm telling you I'm proud of you in this moment, son. She is gorgeous, and I'm so proud of you. You will not end up like your mother and I.
Okay, thanks, Dad. I've only been dating her for like 6 months. I didn't think that, I wasn't even thinking about divorce. Now you've got me worried that I'm just going to mess it up, and that I'm going to end up like you and Mom. That's what I'm going to be, like you, Dad. I'm going to end up like you.
Hey, son. Listen, 6 months, that's a big deal. That's huge. Do you got a name picked out yet, son? I mean,
yeah.
Okay, great. That's something. And remember, she doesn't need to know about your mother and I. Everything's fine.
I mean, I've already told her like a lot of things because we need to know. I mean, we need to know. So I told her that you guys are divorced, and so there's already some like baggage there. But I think it'll be fine. Now I'm worried that I just gave her too much baggage. Now I'm worried that it's just she can't handle the baggage. Maybe I made a mistake.
No, come on, James, listen to your pops here, okay? Look at where we are right now. Look at this. Look, like, come on. This is a big deal. This is senior prom. This is huge. Man, I'm really proud of you, James. I'm so proud of you. And you're gonna be off to college soon. And oh, man, if only I could just turn back the hands of time. And yep.
You mean like you just turn back the hands of time and like not have me, or stay with Mom, or what do you mean by turning back the hands of time?
Yeah. Well, hey, learn from my mistakes, son. Take this. The condom. Just in case. I don't know how tonight's going to turn out, but if it's anything like your mother and I, if I could just turn back the hands of time. Looking good though, son. Let's button that. You missed a button there, son.
And scene. Thanks everybody so much for coming to the Improv Summit. As always, I'm your host, Spencer. With me today, I have BJ. See you next time. Bye.
See you later, Spencer. Bye, Improv Summit.